welcome to Yam Yam F1. It's been a long summer break, and no, it has only been 4 weeks, but Joe hasn't changed that much. This is a different person. This is Cameron, who is our special guest for today, filling in for Joe, who's on holiday.
Hello, everyone.
And we will be reviewing the Dutch Grand Prix. Can't wait for it.
Oh, let's do it.
Right, I want to start off by talking about lap 1. I mean, what was that? Like, that was absolute chaos. I mean, we've
Complete
not had
chaos.
F1 for like 4 weeks, and then we have that.
I think it just come back in like the best way. Just
Yeah.
explosive, just right out the gate. Just make me remember why I love F1.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
absolutely.
I have 2 weeks off. I'm like, I'm like watching the football, stuff like this. Just make me remember why I prefer to sit there and stick the race on
Absolutely.
over everything else. And honestly, just quality.
Yeah, and they were going round for their the sighting lap and then the formation lap, and then it just so happened that next thing you know, the heavens opened on the formation lap, the end of the formation lap. So you're like, are folks going to jump in the pits? We already had one starting in the pit lane, and you're like, well, what's going to happen? Like, and everyone was just stuck with what to do.
Just pure violence. Like the weather in the Netherlands just woke up and chose violence.
Yeah,
It was just like, you know what? If we're gonna make this the most interesting race possible, heavens open, it's just complete and utter like carnage.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and that is exactly what we wanted to come back to. To be honest,
I mean, I'm not complaining.
Like, fair play to all the drivers. There were no crashes.
No.
It was really good, close racing in really difficult conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, it started chucking it down, and they had dry tyres, and they still managed to keep it away from each other at least.
Yeah, I think if anything, like the driving was that good that like some amazing like overtakes happened, like lap 1. Like Alonso's overtake lap 1.
Yeah, that was amazing, wasn't it?
Absolutely unreal.
I mean, one thing about these bank corners is there's not one racing line. There's multiple racing lines, isn't there? And like you've got Russell and Albon that go around the top of turn 3, and then Alonso's like, see you later, folks. I'll just cut in the queue if you don't mind.
He just makes it look easy, man.
The wily old fox. He's been around. He knows the thing. I'll just go around this way.
He knows the shortcuts.
Yeah.
It's like the Mario Kart shortcut.
Yeah.
No, he's just a genius. And honestly, like, it's a shame that just before like the break, like there was a couple of races where like Aston Martin were just sort of like lagging behind. I don't know what it was. I think other teams just got the upgrades in, and they were just suffering. Like McLaren just overtook them in quality. Mercedes overtook them in quality and in the standings.
Yeah.
And then like Alonso just comes back after the break and just goes, right, I'm going to show you how I race now, like in this car.
And the thing is, like, you're looking at the oldest driver of the grid. He's definitely 41, maybe 42 now. And he is as good as anyone on that grid, maybe
Amazing.
barring Verstappen.
Yeah.
You know, he's at least as good as Hamilton.
Yeah.
I mean, Verstappen is just absolutely out of this world at the moment. So,
League of his own at the minute.
yeah, I think so. But to be fair to Alonso, he's got that much experience, he's got that much quality, and there's a reason at the age of 42 why he's still competing and he's still around.
100%.
Because he can do it.
I don't think... It's really difficult, but like I don't think he could be replaced at the moment. Like Aston Martin, like
No.
if he decided I'm retiring after this season, not going to happen. Please don't happen. But if he did do that, how do you replace Alonso? How do you do it?
The thing is, though, like you've got summer break, and they're not allowed to do anything.
No.
They're not allowed to do any improvements on the cars and everything like that. And then you look on Instagram, and Alonso's racing his go-karts. Like, he lives and breathes racing. He bleeds like motor oil. Like he just absolutely loves it, doesn't he?
I think he's the sort of guy. I mean, I don't know him, and I haven't got cameras in his house, but not in the shower. But anyway, he's the sort of guy who just sort of sits there after what happened just before the summer, and he's the sort of guy who goes, "That's not happening again."
Yeah.
Like this isn't happening to me, not to Alonso. And he comes back and he just goes, you know, now I'm gonna take back what I've been doing like the whole beginning of the season, getting that podium. Do you know what I mean? Like,
credit to Aston Martin, but also you've got to look at the fact that for a large chunk of the race, Stroll was out the points.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, he didn't finish in the points. And then Alonso second. So he's definitely quality. Definitely quality.
It's difficult because Stroll isn't a bad driver, not by a
No,
long stretch.
and
He's
he's
one of
had
the 20
really
best
good
drivers in the
junior
world.
career.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a good driver, but he's just not. There's something's just not clicking with him in that Aston Martin, and it's. I think if Lawrence Stroll is serious about this team being a championship team, he might not be the guy to be in that second car.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because the teamwork isn't there. He could never be there to defend Alonso's win because he's nowhere near the front of the grid.
Yeah,
like
exactly. And you saw in 2021, Red Bull used Perez to perfection to help Verstappen win that championship. You know, I'd go as far to say Verstappen wouldn't have won that championship without Perez.
No.
And the work he did. And if they could find someone somewhat at a level with him, then you'd think, actually, Alonso could be in for a really good season, providing they can get a car that's going to compete with that Red Bull.
Yeah. No, I agree, 100%. But I mean, it remains to be seen because as long as Lawrence is the owner of that team, his son will always get a seat.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah, exactly. But like one team that have made a bit of a resurgence, at least in the last 2 seasons, and they're known for the straight line speed. So at a track like Zandvoort, you wouldn't think they'd come out as one of the front runners. But Williams,
yeah.
I mean, Albon set the world. Like, you know,
what a driver.
Exactly.
Well, I've just got to say, what a driver.
I mean, many drivers would have the season that and the seasons and career that Albon has had.
Yeah.
And they would have just crashed after Red Bull. After he got kicked out of Red Bull, you could hold your hand up and say, well, if he flops now, then, you know, he's lost all his confidence.
Yeah.
He's come back. He was out of F1 for a little bit.
He was, yeah.
And now he's gone into Williams, and he's absolutely smashing it.
Yeah. I think it's an amazing mentality to have as a driver, not to let... I mean, you could argue the same for, like, Gasly as well. Like, not to let that Red Bull rejection let you down. You know, just come back stronger. Racing for a different team. Right, putting on some incredible races. I mean, what he's doing with that Williams. I mean, where was that Williams? You know, like last season. Where was it the start of this season even? And the things that he's pulling out the bag in this Williams is just unreal.
Yeah,
you know, they're sort of a team. I mean, they've got this amazing history. But they're sort of a team that in recent times you brush off as sort of like, you know, back of the pack, middle of the pack team.
If you're a new fan of F1 or like one of the Drive to Survive fans that have got into the sport through Drive to Survive, then if you know nothing about the history of F1, you just think Williams is one of the back markers.
Yeah, you would. Yeah,
You'd just say, oh, they're along with the Hasses and the Alpha Tauris, and they're not that good. They're just there to make up the numbers. But like, you look like 30 years ago in the 90s, and Williams were the best team.
Oh, they were, yeah, 100%. But I feel like Albon is really like doing that legacy proud at the moment, and he's driving, you know, for his career, like some of like the best drives of his career, like he's really like kicking it into gear now, and I do think that like before the season's over, we're gonna get like, I think we'll get him like front row, I mean
that would be amazing. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Like,
they've got Monza next week, so it remains to be seen. You know, Nick De Vries, the season he's had this season, he got points with the Williams at Monza last season.
He did.
If you think someone like Albon, who's used to the car, he's in his second season, the team is set up around Albon.
Yeah.
You know, can he get something out of Monza? I think he can definitely get some good points from Monza.
I think so too. Yeah, I think he'll definitely be up there, especially with the way. I mean, you look at, the race, which is what we're here to talk about. I mean, you look at the way Ferrari raced and the strategy. And the mistakes that they made again, and the mistakes that they just make again, and they just keep doing this stuff, and you sit there and watch it, and like I'm a guy, like I'm 24, I'm from the Midlands, I'm sat there with a beer watching my telly with my little belly, you know what I mean? I know nothing about what these guys do, and I would not ever dream of telling them how to do their job. But even I sit there,
like, come on,
and I just go, "What are these guys doing?" My girlfriend will sit there and go, "What are these guys doing?" She's not even watching the race; she's watching TikToks, and she'll look up and she'll be like, "What are they doing?"
Yeah,
and like, how does it keep happening?
Part of that chaos with the rain at the start of the race, and you had cars literally jumping into the pits in lap 1, but I think part of that was Leclerc's fault.
Yeah.
So you had Leclerc, who was he was coming round, and they were talking about it on Sky Sports, and they said, when you're coming round to do a pit stop, there's a point of no return where that decision has got to be made. You're either coming in or not. Because obviously people have got to get tyres out the blankets, get them out onto the pit box, and to do the pit stop.
Yeah.
So apparently it was Leclerc's fault, and Leclerc had basically said, "Look, I need to pit. I'm pitting now."
Yeah.
But he was like on the last corner, or after the last corner.
No tyres ready.
So essentially, it makes Ferrari look ridiculous, and considering their recent form of recent years, you think, oh, here we go, Ferrari again. But it was actually Leclerc this time, and he's coming into the pit lane saying, "Yeah, I want to change my tyres." And I'm like, "Oh my god, he's coming down the pit lane!"
Just give him no time whatsoever.
Yeah, so I mean, in a way, he ruined his own race, and then obviously the damage hit him, and obviously ended up retiring.
Yeah, I think it's time to finally employ Guido from Cars.
Yeah, definitely.
Get him on the tyres. Yeah,
definitely.
But I mean, on Leclerc, like, it's just a really poor race again.
Yeah, and you know what? It was only last season we were talking about Leclerc being a title challenger, and it seems like anything but at the moment. Obviously, the Ferrari isn't strong enough to challenge for a title.
No.
But Leclerc doesn't even look competitive at the moment, which is really concerning, and everybody knows him to be a really competitive, really quick driver.
Yeah, and it's hard because you want somebody to be like last season when you were watching him and you thought he was a title contender. You want somebody to be up there with Max. You want somebody to be challenging Max.
Yeah.
And you see like a character like Leclerc who's got all like the ingredients to be like that guy. In F1. Yeah. And he it's just Ferrari letting him down, but then also his mistakes letting him down. And you just think there's still that gap there between him and like a Verstappen. Yeah. Where he can't, you know, and but when you watch him this season, like you say, you just can't even imagine it now.
Absolutely.
Like you just it's a shame.
They said in 2021 a big part about Verstappen winning the title is he can go on to win other titles now.
Yeah.
It's that getting across the line in your last race and actually having the world title in your hands to be able to say, I've done it. I know actually what it takes to get across that line.
Yeah.
You don't, and then you saw last season Verstappen wasn't going in for crazy moves like he's built his whole career on. He wasn't lunging into like challenges into turn one and this, that, and the other. He was composed.
Yeah.
He was a lot cooler because he's like, at the end of the day, I know I can be just consistent. I don't need to win every race, and I can still win the championship.
Yeah.
And Leclerc just seems a little bit desperate at the moment.
Yeah, I get that feeling. I do get that feeling. I think he's definitely sort of. I feel like a guy like maybe like a Lando Norris is more your kind of guy that you'd expect to be like the next up to challenge Max. But
maybe at the moment, yeah.
I mean, that McLaren was something else.
McLaren have made massive improvements.
Yeah, I mean in Silverstone, like the beginning of that race, you know, it was incredible when he took the lead.
And he kept him behind for a few laps.
He really did, yeah. He did so well, and that McLaren was doing well. And you kind of think, like, I mean, McLaren, in my opinion, have got two really, really good young drivers.
Yeah, definitely. They've got a good future.
Yeah, and I just think Lando, in himself, I mean, I hope to God he stays with McLaren and stuff like that. But they say like this stuff about Red Bull and business like that, where it would definitely be him versus Max. But then the car's built for Max, and that's a different story.
Yeah.
But I just hope that gap is closing, and soon we will see these other amazing young drivers. I mean, we talk about Albon like we just did.
Yeah.
These amazing young drivers should be able to show that they can challenge Max.
Absolutely.
But with how good that Red Bull is, they're not allowed to. They just can't.
Yeah, absolutely. and one young driver who got his debut this weekend.
Yep.
Very unexpectedly. Obviously, Daniel Ricciardo broke his metacarpal, which meant he was ruled out the race. Yeah, Liam Lawson stepped in for him.
He did, yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, in what is the 10th best placed car at the moment, last placed car.
Yeah, agreed.
Liam Lawson stepped in and he did a job. At the end of the day, I said before the race, all he has to do, keep it on the track, keep it out of trouble, and he should do all right.
Yeah.
You know, and absolutely the rain helped him. It made it a really sort of inconsistent and hard to predict race.
Yeah, 100%.
And hard to drive race for everybody. So as long as he could keep it consistent, as long as he could keep it on the tarmac, then he would be looking good. And he finished 13th.
He did, yeah. He kept it on the track and others didn't.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he's done a good job, to be fair. He's not done too bad. I mean, I know you're quite a big fan of his. So
Yeah,
you're pretty happy to
definitely
see
at
him.
junior level, yeah.
You're pretty happy to see him get in the car. And to be honest, like I'll be 100%. Like I know of him, but I've not seen him race. So it was my first time watching him race, and I was pretty chuffed with the guy, to be honest. I think he, like you say, he did a really good job. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice clean
absolutely.
drive.
And it like you say, it begs a lot that he kept on the track and many others didn't. So that brings us on to the red flag and the absolute biblical downpour with about 10 laps to go. I mean,
What
I
do you
like it
even call
exciting, but
It was a monsoon, wasn't it?
I like it exciting, but they even referred to Noah's Ark.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. That was like action film level stuff.
Yeah,
That was.
and I was like, I'm always one of those that I'm like, okay, fair enough. I'm not in the car. I can't see what they can see.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they can't see anything because of the spray. But I'm always one you want to see the action, don't you? It's me sitting at home watching it, but you want to see them racing and stuff. And then you saw that, and they're all flinging off in turn one. And you're just like, oh, maybe not. Maybe we should stop the race, guys.
Yeah, you'd be absolutely bricking it if you were in one of those cars.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But sat at home on my comfy little sofa, it is.
Yeah, I'm like, come
100%.
on, get back in the cars.
I'm loving it. I'm just like, no, don't stop it. Come on, keep them going.
It'd literally be like a Mario Kart race where they're all flinging off the track.
No, it would, yeah.
Loads of banana peels.
But I mean, shout out Zhou Guanyu. I'm glad you're okay, buddy.
Yeah, definitely.
That was a nasty crash.
It was a nasty crash.
I mean, he hit that barrier. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know the figures, but it was fast. That he hit that barrier.
Hit that barrier very fast.
He hit that barrier. It was fast.
And Logan Sargent. I mean,
Yes.
I feel so bad for Logan Sargent. He got into Q3.
He did.
Then he binned it, and you're like, this is his very first Q3 in history. His history, and he's like, brilliant, bins it in the wall. They fix the car for him, and then he bins it in the wall in the race. He's like, oh man.
Yeah, he's getting.
It's giving us Williams, George Russell vibes. You know when he used to Mr. Saturday and he used to mess it up on the Sunday.
Yeah, I'd hate to see the invoice coming through Logan Sargent's store for those two cars.
Imagine they're like, well, that's no upgrades until Christmas. Or
This is just like a receipt, and it just says 2 times car, like 70 million.
And along with
Poor
all
guy.
this chaos, and along with the red flag that come along with the heavy rain, and then Zhou Guanyu's crash, we had so much drama in the pit lane. Now the pit lane at Zandvoort is narrow,
So narrow.
and the pit lane at Zandvoort is slower as well. As a result,
Yeah.
you saw Perez get caught out right at the end. And then he was in the pit lane, then it was a red flag, and then they put a red light at the end of the pit lane.
Yeah.
And everyone went round him.
Yeah, as he was trying to leave the pit lane, the light turned red. He stopped like a good citizen, and then everyone else was like, "Nah." It reminds me of the drive home from work.
So if only Perez would have been playing GTA and he'd gone over the red light.
Completely ignore it. Just, see you later, boys.
But he went from second to then 6th. I mean, fortunately for him, they took it back to the last sector, so he started from 3rd. Yeah. When we had the restart, but he was nowhere near the front two. I mean, I thought Verstappen got this massive run on Alonso, and then by turn 1, Alonso was right behind him. Yeah. But after that, you just never saw Perez. No. And I have to say, this obviously with his penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which followed soon after. Yeah. Pierre Gasly. Oh,
really, really happy for him. Honestly, really happy for him. It's great for him to get on the podium, I think, and just a quality drive, top quality drive.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you think Alpine started off well, but I think they started off well because McLaren started rubbish. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And they were just sort of 5th place team by default, really. Yes, yeah. And they're now really having to work for it. They had a great weekend at Monaco when Ocon got on the podium. Yes. And I even said in one of our podcasts, I can't see McLaren better in Alpine this season. And then obviously McLaren bought these crazy upgrades, and then it's a completely different story now.
Yeah, they gave Lando a rocket ship, and that was it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was very much the tables had turned in this race. Lando started second. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Piastri started quite well, and then it just ended up being a little bit of a farce for McLaren, just as it was for Mercedes.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Their strategy was just... It was one of them where you're like, if you want to stick out the rain, you either stay on dry tyres for the whole duration, and then benefit from it after, like what Albon did. Or you go straight away and you get the wet tyres on, and then you change it back to the dry tyres. You've got to make the plunge. You've got to make that jump. And they were umming and ahhing for a very long time. It tripped them up.
Yeah, it was a poor decision to leave them out.
You know, and Hamilton, obviously starting 13th, had a fantastic opportunity to get him straight in the pits. Get his tyres changed and have two cars on different strategies. And they had the same strategy with both, and they lost out on both.
Yeah, just chose not to.
Yeah.
It's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
When teams just choose not to do the thing that you would think, like, surely at this point the logical thing would be to get those two drivers on the two different strategies, and Lewis could have, he could have definitely made his way up the field.
Yeah, definitely.
And they just chose not to. There's not really like any other way to look at it. It
took about 3 or 4 laps, 5 laps, and that 20-second margin that he'd take for a pit stop was gained. I don't even think it was that. Like, Perez was way back, and then all of a sudden he was first.
Yeah.
Within about a lap and a half.
Yeah.
So it was that much of a gulf in grip.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, I think
Mercedes really missed out this weekend.
Yeah, they did. I'd agree with that. I think the result doesn't sort of reflect like how well they could have done if they'd have just got that. Do you know what I mean? If they'd have just got that bit right.
Yeah.
It could have been so different for Mercedes.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously you had the terrible look for Russell getting his puncture.
Yeah,
and that means technically he didn't DNF, I don't think, but he still got given his eventual standings. But at the end of it, that's like essentially his 3rd DNF of the season. Yeah. And he just, it was just so late in the race that he just couldn't recover from it.
Yeah, it was a big shame, to be honest. I think in terms of the whole, a lot of the pit stops, it wasn't just Ferraris. A lot of the pit stops were a bit crazy. With the rain and whatnot, and I think like Alonso, who we spoke about earlier, is very lucky, or it's testament to his driving or whatever it is, to get that second place, to get that P2, to get that podium after his pit stop.
Yeah.
Which was 8.3 seconds.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is...
I mean, Sainz went past him, and within about a lap and a half, he was right... He was right behind him, yeah.
I couldn't believe it, really, because obviously when he goes in, and you see like the little clock in the corner, and I'm there thinking, because I'm quite fond of Alonso, and I'm there thinking like he's doing so well, and then this happens, and I'm watching that clock go up and up and up, and I'm like, this is such a poor pit stop. Yeah. And Aston Martin have been like spot on with their pit stops really this season. Like they have got, they're a good team, and it's just, I was watching that clock and I was like, what is going on? And then I saw the 8.3 seconds and I was like, there's no way he gets it back now.
Yeah.
And he just goes out and he just catches up to Sainz. Like, Sainz, it was almost as if Sainz was waiting for him, just like, exactly. Go on, mate. He's like, come on, hurry up, go on. Where are you?
For you to go for a Sunday drive together,
You just, I don't know what happened there. Like, but he just caught straight back up to him. I mean, I think like he's really, really lucky that he managed to do that. But like I say, is it just his skill and his sort of experience?
Yeah, I think it is partly that. I'd say the Aston Martin is a better car than the Ferrari.
Yeah.
But then I think there is a gulf in quality. There is a gap in quality, at least, between Sainz and Alonso.
Yeah.
I'm one to say that Sainz is a very, very good driver, but Alonso is he's a cut above. He's a cut above Sainz, and there's a reason why he caught back up to him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think you have that experience in different conditions. Sainz has been very famously bad when it's heavy rain in many occasions. You saw the experience of Hamilton and Hamilton's wet weather driving. Yeah. And he eventually finished 6th. And that experience, that know-how, that like the different lines and that, and it paid off for the both of them.
Oh yeah, and definitely did.
That experience you can't trade with anything really.
No. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And then we come to the inevitable.
Oh yeah. Do we have to talk about him?
I have to say, you know, when it was 2021 and I was all Lewis Hamilton, obviously still a Lewis Hamilton fan.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh no, this Verstappen. Yeah, he'll win a title at some point, but like, no, not yet. Let Hamilton win first. And then, oh my God, he's got 9 wins in a row. He's equalled Vettel's record. For most consecutive wins, and I would back him to get another win in Monza and make that 10.
I think this guy's just untouchable.
Yeah.
I don't know how nobody can get the beating of him. He's not his teammate, you know, and then you argue like it's another Red Bull, but he can't even catch him.
Well, exactly. I mean, you saw Perez fling off in turn 1 and bash up the rear wing, and he's speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Verstappen doesn't make mistakes.
No, he just seems to know the answer. He just knows the answer to. I mean, the heavy rain, he knows the answer. It's just like nothing will throw this guy off.
Yeah.
I think he had there was a bit of a shaky moment where I thought perhaps. I mean, I know we both said he should have perhaps got like a penalty for when I feel like he pushed Gasly off the track.
He did dive into turn 3 a bit overzealously. I will put it. Rather like that. Gasly was off the track. I'm not going to say whether he did or didn't force him off the track.
It looks like it. It just looks
look
like it.
I must admit.
And I'm not saying that just because of you know, we're British racing fans, so obviously 2021 is going to be a thing for us.
Yeah.
But I don't hold a massive grudge over Max.
Not at all.
But in moments like that, I'd call out any driver for that being very, very risky, and you could have ended Gasly's race just by throwing it in.
The weekend into turn 3.
Oh God, yeah.
You know, and I have to say, as much as a few years ago I wasn't a Verstappen fan, and although I appreciate he was good, you can only appreciate how good he is now.
You have to.
You can only say that this man is a quality driver. He's the best in the world.
He is.
And you heard it here first, Verstappen is a very good driver.
There's a pain in our eyes as we say this, but he is.
A tear rolling down my cheek.
He is just in a league of his own at the moment. There is, the fact that he's driving a very, very, very good car.
Yeah. And
it has been built down to the very last, fibre for him.
Absolutely.
Which is why I believe Perez struggles, because the car is built for Max.
That,
But the philosophy of Red Bull is that they will always build the car around their best driver, and he is nailed on their best driver.
Absolutely.
So the car will be built for him, and it's working. So why would they change that? But just 9 wins in a row, just absolutely unmatched, really at the moment. Yeah. He's playing with cheat codes.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And that summed up an absolutely commanding performance in his home race.
Yes.
And that sums up our podcast.
Yeah.
So that has been the review of the Dutch Grand Prix. So glad to have F1 back.
Buzzing.
Cameron here for his debut, just like Liam Lawson. Thank you for watching, everybody, and we'll see you later.
Thank you. Goodbye.